Oh. They know our plans.
Probably.
Well done. They know Miguel has a long-haired dog. Pretty sad.
Or maybe you're fixed. Then we'll see if it's really starts screaming here. I'll be running out with it. 2 days ago, it sounded like it was around the office.
That was Tom Cruise, he was going to throw it up the window.
Literally, it sounded like. No, that's not true.
Study session of January 13th, 2026 is called to order. Mary, will you do roll call, please?
Yes, I will. Councilmember Bush.
Here.
Councilmember Stearns. Here. Councilmember Onisko.
Here.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Here.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Right, the city manager, Mark Ziegler, will provide more context regarding permit reports.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've got some hard copies here of your computer being worked on. It's gonna be hard copies. I'm gonna project it on the screen as well.
I've got some here.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's got it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good. Thank you.
All right, if you need a hard copy to back up your electronic copy, please let me know. On the screen, so you've seen drafts of these reports now over the last couple of weeks. We'll be adding these to each study session. From today moving forward, I think this will provide council and the public in itself an opportunity to hear a little bit about what's happening every day, some of the data associated with the work that we're performing. Give you a snapshot, if you will. It doesn't capture everything, right? You know, there's phone calls, there's counter contacts, and there's training and staff meetings and leave and all of those things that are associated with that. But this is the data we can put together without in a reasonable amount of time, with a reasonable amount of effort, and be able to portray to you kind of what's happening here on a daily basis throughout the city, including municipal court. We'll take some time this week and in 2 weeks to explain the data a little more so you understand what's being presented to you. But the intent is really that this will kind of be a handoff, if you will. It'll be included in the packet, it'll be handed off to you. Most of the data will be, you'll see each and every month. So it'll be from the previous month, handed off to you at study sessions. But there's going to be programs and projects maybe included in there that will provide greater context to. And you'll see some of that tonight with each of the individuals presenting. And then they can kind of describe what that might look like, whether it's a land use permit or it's something case counsel within the courts, or certainly what our partners, Central Mason Fire, are providing. We can clarify that, and by any means, this is an open dialogue, an open conversation about what you're hearing, what you're receiving tonight. And hopefully this as well kind of reinforces some of the discussions we've had about service levels way back from May of last year, discussing about service levels and what we're performing, what kind of services we're performing, and what priorities the council sees that when we're making decisions moving forward. There's, there's a lot that happens day to day and this doesn't capture all of it, but we're hoping that this, just does a little better, informing you. So if you have any questions, again, open dialogue, if you want anything added in these reports, feel free to give us that feedback. If you think of something later, let me know. We'll be happy to facilitate that and provide it, at any time. So we're gonna start off with Chief Kosad and, information from the police department.
All right. Good evening. First thing you'll see on your handout there is the stats between 2025 and 2024. I anticipate, as we move forward through this process throughout the year, you'll see monthly stats just added in as we go. But being that was the end of the year, I wanted to kind of give you a sense of where we stand now from where we stood last year. I think the numbers pretty much speak for themselves, and I could go line by line on them. A few little mentioning points I'd like to take the opportunity to quickly talk about is that we did have 2 homicides in 2025 versus 2024. Both of those cases are closed. One has been completely adjudicated, and I'll speak to that in a little bit, and one is still pending with the prosecutor's office. They have final say in what cases they're going to prosecute. We can give them, everything we got, and, in the end, it's going to be their decision whether they elect to move forward with that case or not. And that one, that secondary murder case is still resting with them to see if they want to prosecute it or not. The second little thing that I thought was interesting that popped out was down under Group A's crimes against society. And if you don't understand what Group A crimes means, that's basically how the FBI categorizes certain crimes. It's basically a national incident-based reporting system through the FBI. Group A is going to be your major felonies for the most part. So just so you understand what that terminology means. And then their Group A crimes against society, as you can see, the second line down, pornography, that specifically relates to child pornography and how many more cases we had in 2025 versus 2024, 11 versus 3. And what that says to me is recently, within the past year, my detectives became part of ICAC, which is acronym for Internet Crimes Against Children. It's a task force based out of Seattle and run by Seattle PD. And we're very happy to be part of that. And they go all over Western Washington now and conduct numerous different types of investigations. They're learning a lot. And due to our ability to be part of that team, that's why we're seeing those numbers go up, because we're getting more resources and ability to investigate those cases and make arrests. So I'm really proud of that number there to see that go up. Second page, as we're continuing on those stats, I just want to bring note, calls for service was down about 1,500 calls this year versus last year. We're going to have to do a deeper dive on that and exactly kind of see where we went with that and what it is. Are we getting less reporting of crime, or officers handling things different out in the field where they're not requesting a report? Sometimes they can do that. So, or a case number, sorry. So that's something that it's going to take me a little time, and I anticipate once I produce my annual report to council that we may have a better definitive answer on why we're so shy, because consistently for the last few years, I know we've been over 1,200 calls for service per year. So that'll be interesting to see where that ended up. So far, any questions on these numbers, or?
Do you think that maybe some people are just reporting to the app instead of a call for service?
I'm so sorry, I can hear you.
Do you think perhaps maybe some people are just putting things on an app instead of calling it in?
And that's quite possible. Who knows? Or maybe they're using My Civic and they're going that route. Yes, exactly. Right.
Those rules generate a case though. Because criminal cases should not be reported through the My.
Yes,
app, so
they should be.
They shouldn't be, right? They may very well be, but then those are forwarded to PD and the case is generated. I think as chief, I'll point out, just under the calls, you'll see that the calls did decrease, but the arrest reports written increased dramatically, tickets issued are up. reports to detectives a little down, but, you know, the reports are right in line with 2024, even though it calls them for service.
Yes.
Declines some,
Mhm.
you know, these categories and this workload throughout the department has not decreased.
No, it actually has increased, specifically as the arrest reports. I do have a fairly young department now, and they're all very excited to go out and do their jobs, and I'm sure Judge can appreciate all the new cases coming his way. So yes, they are extremely active and out there, doing a great job, and they're not laxed whatsoever.
So I guess my question was, we had a large discrepancy in arrest reports written from 24 to 25.
Mhm.
And also there's an increase in the number of group A crimes, drug, narcotics, and paraphernalia.
Mhm.
So what that tells me is that we're being more proactive on not only doing reports, but making sure that people who are using drugs and narcotics and paraphernalia are being brought to justice. And I think that denies the claims of some people who come into this court or in this civic center and say that you guys aren't doing anything.
Mhm.
I think the exact opposite has happened. So
Mhm.
thank you for your job.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Narcotics has definitely risen. Now that it's a misdemeanor and we're able to do something with that law again, that's absolutely enhanced that. So, yeah.
Is there a way to add to this, average per incident, like for different categories, like how much time an officer or two spends at a call? I mean, it would be interesting to know, being that we have 20 officers.
I'll speak for Chief a little bit because I want to talk about that a little bit with a lot of these scenarios. You will see some time attached to certain items that we have to track time for, like Mary will have some time associated with public records requests because we have to report that to the state. But we've talked about turnaround times for like building permits, and really to track that data specifically would just be one more burden we're putting on SF, because it varies from an over-the-counter window permit to a new commercial construction, right? You get that in a matter of minutes or an hour, whereas it could be months to get through the permitting process, particularly if the applicant is delayed in returning some of the submittals for a month, right? So it can really skew that data, and I think that might be where, speak for the chief for a second, he can correct me, he's good at that. You know, each case is different.
Yeah, my thought process is level of service down the road.
Mhm.
You know, we have 20 officers or 21. Do we need 25?
Mhm.
Do we need 18, 30? You know, that's my thought process is
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
do we go with these numbers are great, but how much time are we investing in detectives? You know, I would have to say detectives, how much time are
Yeah.
detectives investing in some of these crimes that they're doing?
And I'll address that in a little bit. It's honestly very hard to quantify. You know, we can spend a half hour on scene, but there's a lot of other things that go inside a case besides just what we're doing on scene. There's, you know, booking, you know, our reports and all that stuff. So, you know, an incident that we're there for a half hour, so we could invest 3 to 4 hours on potentially. So those are very hard things that aren't really documented very well. Our time on scene is, but not after the fact. You know, we can look up certain things. How long did I spend at a jail? But specifically when the longer things come, when it's writing reports, sitting down, that's not documented anywhere, how much time we're actually spending on writing these reports and filing these case files.
Hours, quality of that.
We could probably get transports, that data.
Yeah, we could get transports, we could get time at the hospital for okay to book.
To my mind, level of
Yeah.
service.
Yes.
You know, budget, you know, we need 3 more cops.
And we associate that with calls for service, you know, over the years, but as you see, maybe that's not the appropriate data point to use as calls for service. Maybe it's other data points as far as staffing practice within the PD. We need to keep an eye on that, and explore that.
It's just,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, if those are captured already, we can certainly add, because obviously, you know, we're dispatching somebody to, you know, to transport them to Nisqually, that there's records, that certainly booking records, we can generalize how much time, sometimes they're spending some time over there, right?
Over at the jails?
Yeah.
Sometimes a booking process sometimes can last over an hour, sometimes depending on Nisqually. is actually notoriously long
Yeah.
because not only for the drive over there, it takes approximately 45 minutes, but then getting out of that facility, sometimes they're there for an hour, hour and a half waiting. So that it could be up to almost a 4 hour trip sometimes to book someone in
That's
Nisqually.
good information.
It's not a drop off, you know,
Mhm.
you don't pull up the door and say, okay, go inside, see you later.
Mhm.
It's actually a process. It's
Mhm.
okay. And
Not
much
like
of that,
TV.
much of that's out of our control too, right? We're going to their processes and their
Yeah.
workload.
In the next section after the statistics, camping, added camping ordinance in here because although they are included, they're gonna be down here in probably the group B arrests or some of those stats anyways. It really it don't have a specific spot for it, so I wanted to bring those numbers out to light so you can see them, right up in front. So these are essentially the same that I brought you a month and a half ago. These are about the same numbers. I think the notices have increased a little bit, so. But I just want to keep you abreast of what we're doing here. And what this says to me is these numbers is, yeah, we have 2 arrests. That means people are listening to us. We don't have to take enforcement. We're giving them the warnings and they're moving on. Is that what would dictate an arrest is they're not complying, and that's fairly low. And then the next section I have is for the Flock 2025 stats. That's self-explanatory. We've had over 53 case files since implementation. Those, can range from a number of different types of crimes, where it's possession of stolen property. We've solved sex offenses, we've solved thefts, we've solved burglaries, so you name it. We've probably had that system implemented in some type of a case investigation, extremely helpful. And out of those 53 case files, we've made 10 arrests with the Flock system. So, and some of those were very serious. So we're glad to have that in place.
Chief, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
we're monitoring 2 bills, one in the House, one in the Senate, regarding automated license plate reader. Infrastructure and rules around that, and really those 2 bills would restrict the use of these cameras and this infrastructure to the point where we'd have to really consider whether it's worth moving forward. And it really restricts the ability to search that information and how long you can retain it, and a lot of parameters around that. So I've talked with our government relations consultant Troy about that. He's going to keep us up to date on any hearings. We talked about potentially testifying within those hearings as well, because we've seen great value in that. I was on a call with AWC yesterday and kind of legislative preview with other representatives from other cities, and many cities are monitoring this at the same time. And I think there's going to be a lot of support for AWC to maintain this tool for local jurisdictions at all costs. But we'll wait and see what comes to the legislature and try to convey to them the importance of this tool.
And department updates. Currently, we are 20 budgeted with the new police officer budget for 2026. We're at 18 right now. We had an officer lateral out, and we have that new position open. So we are currently looking for 2 more able-ready bodies to join the Shelton Police Department. We have 1 in backgrounds right now, and we're conducting a few more interviews so hopefully we can get someone here sooner or later. But like I've said before, if it's an entry level, we'll be lucky to see him on the road before the end of the year. That's just how that goes. So, but we're hoping maybe to procure a lateral, but we can't always foresee if that's going to occur or not, but we'll cross our fingers, I guess. We're somewhat short-staffed right now. We have 1 officer on light duty. We have a couple people that are on leave. So right now we're kind of entering the batter's boxes there, or the pitcher's mound, or what do they call that? Whatever, detectives, like one of our detectives, Sergeant, is going to be working the road this whole week just due to our staffing levels. And it's pretty common right now during a day shift, at least, we only have two officers on duty covering all the calls. So we will rebound, but just circumstances, with personnel and things happen. And so this is how we're dealing with it. So we're used to it. We'll deal with it, move forward, and wait for it to get better. This year, We've had some very significant cases come through, and I wanted to highlight this because of the great detective work that's been done over this last year with my agency. Detective Gettle and Ford have just done a phenomenal job. We've had, like I said, we've had 2 homicide cases this year. One was a shooting of a young man up on the 1400 block of May. This occurred back in February 2025. There was 2 suspects involved with this. They were taken into custody within, I think 24 hours, both of them within 24 hours. And this case has been completely adjudicated. They both pled out. So that goes to show what a great case file that these detectives are producing, that they're not gonna, move forward with this case. They actually, I was looking to see how long it took them to investigate this. They literally investigated this one since, let me see, the inception was February 3rd of 2025. They investigated all the way through the end of July. So that was probably about a good, what was that, 5-month investigation, and it's just important to realize, just because we get someone in custody the next day doesn't mean the case is over with. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much investigation go on, where we're talking forensics, DNA, cell phone records, whatever it may be that's pertinent to this case, it takes a while to get through those processes. And there was a couple collateral arrests in this case as well for interfering, destruction of evidence and things like that. Those always sometimes come along too. And we really hold no mercy when it comes to that. If you screw around with our case and our evidence or anything like that, you're done. We take everybody. So that's what happened in this case. So, but I'm pleased to say that they did a phenomenal job on this case, both pled out. That one's been completely adjudicated. The second case, this one occurred back in May of 2025. There's a little typo on this. It's actually the Isaiah Fryer homicide case. This was, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. That was the first one I was talking about. Isaiah Fryer was the homicide case, not Cody. I think it's Cody up there. Yeah, that was my typo. I apologize. The second one is the Kenneth Michael assault case. This occurred back in May, 500 block of 4th Street. Gentleman was stabbed. He had a deep laceration about 10 inches across his chest. He had arterial spray. Very, very, very serious wound. Officers arrived on scene, gave him immediate first aid, actually saved his life, and we hope to present that situation to the council later on. This officer will be given a life-saving medal for what he did on that scene. But again, we got someone in custody, I believe, within a few hours of that one. And that one has been pled out as well. That one was investigated for about, a month and a half, it looks like, or something like that. So still, for something that was, pretty straightforward investigation, still, it takes a little bit of time to put all these pieces together. Last one I want to mention is the Dusty Monroe theft fraud case. And this actually started back in 2023. May of 2023, Dusty was an employee of Shelton Memorial Park, and it's been all over the paper. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but she was committing theft and fraud through the Shelton Memorial Park, and the proceeds came close, I think, somewhere around $300,000. So it's a significant amount of money. That was actually investigated from May of 2023 to October of 2025. So that was over a year-long investigation. This case file will dwarf some homicide cases I've seen. We had to have a forensic auditor come in and go through all these just multitude of documents, and it was a pretty insane case. Lots going on with it. We just got a guilty verdict on that about 2 weeks ago, so it should be sentenced next month. So again, big, long, drawn-out case, but they're just doing a great job in getting a great conclusion to these cases.
Chief, that was a couple-week trial?
It was, yeah.
And Detective Gettle spent
Almost all 2 weeks, yes. He was there through, through jury selection, through all the arguments, through closing and jury instructions. So he was there for the whole thing, about 2 weeks, so. And and that happens a lot of times because the prosecutor relies on the case investigator for information, throughout the case, because he's the expert in the case. So if the prosecutor needs to know something or needs some assistance, then he's right there to assist. Plus, he can refute or help if someone says something on the stand that's incorrect or contradicts the investigation report, then he can say, hey, wait, look at this, and then might be able to address that issue, of course. Last thing I want to bring up is the Knight Marshal Jacob Lewis. This last year, we got him inducted into the Washington Law Enforcement Memorial. I completed the application a few months ago for him to be inducted into the National Law Enforcement Memorial, which was approved. So this spring, he will be put on the National Law Enforcement Memorial. So very happy to get that as well. Any questions, comments, concerns, or anything, please let me know.
Can you give us some examples of what might be under the all other for the Group B arrests? That
All
number is really
other-
high. I'm just curious what that might consist of.
Let me see here, Group B arrest, all other. And that's probably a pretty good question. I would imagine those are gonna be your misdemeanor level crimes, so those could be like a theft 3, maybe a misdemeanor theft 3. You already got your DUIs, so maybe your DWS trespass, we have trespass on there.
Trespasses on here.
Your Honor probably know more about what's all included in all these other ones. Yeah, a lot of theft, I would imagine. So it's gonna be your lower level, gross misdemeanor crimes. Mhm.
Thank you.
I just want to tell you, great work to you and everyone in your department. I really appreciate the hard work and excellent job saving that man's life. Good job.
Anything else? So again, I'll reiterate, if there's something else you'd like to see, something comes to mind, please feel free to reach out to me, let me know. You can have that in ongoing reports, but you'll see the similar information coming, the county foreman study sessions from next month. We'll transition to this. Thank you, Chief. Judge
Yeah,
Griffin.
thank you.
So first of all, Diane was gonna be here with me, for all the stats, but she's sick, so no decision. But she did a great job. This is a snapshot, December. You see where the numbers came from, just a snapshot. So during that month, we had 34 infractions, most of those were attached to arrest or something else. There were very few standalone infractions. And the DUI physical control misdemeanor hearings. 85 of those, self-explanatory. Traffic misdemeanors, we're talking about driver's license, third, negligent driving, reckless driving, that's not. Non-traffic. Majority that, after that trespass. First degree and second degree, and you catch all things like stolen conduct, things like that. So we had 448 hearings in December, court hearings in this room here. And of all various types. That generates a lot of burden outside of our, and so my staff in December did 19,485 computer entries to reflect what was happening on the criminal cases. That sounds insane, but I worked out 927.85 per day. And says 2 full-time clerks do almost all of it. The court administrator does some entry, but not a whole of those entries. Her job is more administrative, those more grants, the payments, the jail bill, and all that kind of stuff. And we also have a 0.2 clerk, that's Charity Dorsey. And she is doing some of the entry as well, but most of her focus is on, just to kind of know what they're doing. For Corey and Christina, the 2 main court clerks sitting here. We'll have a full day tomorrow, we've been averaging, because we saw the reports being written. Saying 2024, we're doing like 65 to 70 hearings. Say. Lakeview, 100, 120. A good day is 100. And straight reflection, how many people are arrested, how many people are charged. And we're finding that because that's our job, right? And so we're still getting involved there. So that's good news. Great staff. But once that happens to the court, say somebody pleads to DUI, then the staff has to take that paperwork to judge sentence. They have to go to the clerk's office, they have to notify the clerk's office, the clerk will get calls. That to notify the state court system of all the conditions of the sentence. And then something about it, that license gets suspended. It goes on their record, off the database, was dates. All the other courts to see, they can adopt the court will list all the conditions of the computer system. So we have to, but of course, have it, everybody can see it. And so a lot of entries, a lot of follow-up, that's every single file, every time you do something. And it's just reset a day. They have to go in with the reason for reset. Who asked for it? What is the case? You know, so every single file might take. I'm pretty fast, so I might average a couple minutes if I miss a file. But you know, the clerks have twice as much time outside of all of the everything. And so that's why those numbers are so high. In addition to that, just in December, for example, people do come up to the window, they want to make payments on their tickets. They want to inquire about when next court date is, they missed their court dates, they want to sign prompts to appear. So you can get on a court calendar to quash a warrant. You have warrants over a certain dollar amount, which I won't say. But the officers know what the number is, and over a certain dollar amount, it's an automatic, you get arrested in the lobby. You don't get signed prompts to appear. And we also get record requests, so I was trying to remember what we had in December, so I think we had a record request as the general member of the public. And also the Attorney General's office, CYF, and county prosecutor. And those are actually the most common, it's actually CYF. In the chief's office, and that's usually because there's some fantasy going on somewhere. And so they want to court about. We have one of those today. Yeah, so most common people asking for information. Meanwhile, I was gonna jump ahead and ask questions. Jerry Tidd, you might know, just want to do these reports every month. December holidays, so not as much as usual, but she's very good at listing kind of people who are working out there. 121 bags of litter. Just December, cool. And although the truck, Bud Works sells a lot of this. But I go for this guy, shopping carts, 29 by the way, I know you guys asked them where to sell shopping carts. I'll remain completely silent about that, and say, you know, that 29 shopping carts were, was laying around the city. In December. I really, they got there like that. And Jerry also does the fingerprinting. And that's the station over there behind you. And by law, courts may fingerprint. So if we do that, help out the stats for law enforcement. And so people that aren't looking in jail that have fingerprinted, we figure out who those people are. Kind of get Jerry's the fingerprint, can't make them get fingerprints. But we can ask him, Jerry's really good at asking. So just a lot of fingerprints collected. That's part of the job as well.
How could you not make them do it? It's their
Law enforcement can do it, working.
They're charged with crime.
What's that?
When you're charged with crime, you get fingered, you get booked.
If you're brought to jail, you can ask this question, right? If
Mhm.
you're brought to jail, you get to go to fingerprint.
Yes.
Okay, if you're not brought to jail.
Yeah.
You're cited. I mean, 2 weeks from now, there's money for a rating. Then Jerry will look up their background and see if best we can tell, might be fingerprinted, but don't know that fingerprinted. Then she'll go find the lobby, ask them their ID now. Bring it up here and fingerprint them. So it can go into the database that's kept by law enforcement. Under law, court can ask. Law enforcement. They fingerprint. And there are various ways of making it, but they can force it, we can't. most people comply. Not every. So,
Well, like that's a hole in the system.
but it's, we don't book every, okay, so it's just the way it is. Then very bottom projects. So it's actually a really big deal. Every Tuesday and Thursday, my staff is on the same meeting, same court people. We have every, say. We don't hold peers session in June. This court is partially paperless since I got here. It's gonna be complete paperless. So that means it's mid-May. Terry's the part of this conversation over here. I believe it's mid-May. We're just summer financial money part. And new system comes on board in June. And the honest is going to be a mess. So it's going to completely new for everybody. And the system's supposed to collect their money for us. We make payments online. It's supposed to automatically send it to account. See, Mark is coming from the court. And automatically put in the cases, the money's supposed to be in. And it's kind of do all the notifications, court calendars, everything. And the whole state had these systems in place in lower courts by the end of 2027. So we're like somewhere in the middle. And it's gonna be great because it's working well, we're all familiar with it. But also, I will clarify saying that. That's not really about it. It's a lot of new stuff. It is Windows based. Right now, the state computer system, except for JAWS, which I use, is the DOS, the 1980s. It's very different. So the system much better, but it's slowly coming because of encryption, security, and all that. Take care of it. So Tyler's project. But so same cities for the final system. So any questions or not?
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I got on, as I said, your DUIs are actually higher than our numbers reflect. And I don't know how many achieved, but I know. But I also do district court, so I do see the end of county. Some, because of how many officers you have, they might be DUI. The problem is they also, some people are forced to get up and, but the officer might also have to go to the ED. You only got 2 of them. And so the state patrol will show up and process the DUI. When that happens, it has to go to the state road. So some of the city drives, the state will start like city officers. I will echo what the chief said, it's very time consuming. Stop them, they're calling me for a search warrant an hour and a half after pull something over. Right? They're calling me the whole night or whatever, but then they have to go to the hospital or a drop, they have to wait there, get the blood, go to the evidence, write the report, it's a long process, it takes a lot of time.
Excellent.
How is it going with, there was an issue a while back with, there was multiple warrants, county warrants, city warrants, and we were releasing them and we were still paying for that jail time, and is that gonna get better?
I think it's gotten better, so it works right now, the county jail is going much better. Diane looks at the jail bill, there's a lot of errors, we address some of those issues, so the errors go down. And there's a spreadsheet counting, so there's basic communication about it. Yeah. When it comes to, so I'm holding somebody, and the county's holding somebody, Mason County jail. We're splitting the bill. 50-50. Okay. The Swalleys, different story. If I'm holding somebody in the Swally, that's what you end up. And see, we had a warrant, and they're picked up by Lacey Reed. That happens, okay. The report would usually read, causing trouble, Lacey. They go check them out, for same kind of activities, oh, shell warrant. Well, Swally's really close. So Lacey Reed's like, problem solved, arrest them on the shell warrant, it's Swally jail. And no joke, so I see all that, and so Then, say you have a Mason County. Mason County sees the Nisqually jail as like an extra room. In the Mason County jail. So their contract with Nisqually is pretty weird. If they land in the Mason County camp, and Mason County moves them to Nisqually, we might be able to share it out. But if we bring them to Nisqually jail. And they also have a Mason County warrant, the warrant in Mason County would never be served. The county refuses to recognize it exists. This is not fair.
So
The way
we,
they see it.
we release them on our charge and they're still in Nisqually on a Mason County charge, we're paying that
There's-
bill.
No, so
No,
we'll pay the
okay.
whole bill as well.
Okay,
And stays at that, like, we get stay there for 7-10 days, right? We're being pulled up.
Okay.
They get released, we're still Mason County warrant, it's never been served.
Got it.
It's refuses to acknowledge it, it will not confirm it. But I get, watch to a bus stop. In Olympia. They can stay in Olympia. Or they can take the free Mason County bus at Mason County. For that bus stop. In which case, if the county finds them, yeah. But if they start this county jail, you'll trust. Small, you can both have. Both jurisdictions, and respect it. System. When we see how you does their job.
interesting. So if Nisqually if the Lacey cop picks up a county warrant and drops on Nisqually, what happens there? Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, they
The
don't.
county not confirmed.
The county won't confirm it, so that just, oh, well.
This doesn't exist.
They got it, okay.
There's some exceptions, we had somebody picked up, state patrol had a warrant here in the city. And I released her. Because right away, because Lewis County wants to, or much bigger, better, better words. Virginia drugs there too. And they confirmed their warrant. They can't pick her up. So she's gone.
There's no free bus from Tacoma. Like I said, there's no free bus from Tacoma here.
Are we still having any issues with booking at locally or are we just mainly using that?
On occasion, yeah, we had an individual that was attempted to be booked in Mason County Jail within the last couple of weeks and they called and asked for us to come. Speak to that individual, it would be difficult.
I mean, the prisoner be difficult?
You know, anybody it's difficult, and we see, I mean, he gets transferred to the school. Right,
Yes, that happens probably a couple times a month where Mason County advises us that they have a person that we booked there is difficult, not cooperating or has mental issues, and we have 72 hours to relocate them to Nisqually.
then what happens is they usually wait to see if I can pull or not.
We do. We actually had that today. We had a 72-hour notice on somebody and I believe you released her award or something or
Could be,
that.
they're gonna be done. So, but sometimes I say no, don't please. Because it's a mental health evaluation, and see what I think. And if I. They're kept in jail. That can't be reason to be in jail, but if they are kept in jail. Evaluations may have for 3 days or less, and a squally. 7 to 9 days. And by Sunday worse, that's pretty good. But if I release them, usually could be transient. It takes almost a year. In evaluation in Western State Hospital, so we'll set a court hearing every couple of months. See if we drag in somebody that's fancy or homeless. You know, and see if they can contact their attorney, if you bother to show up. Right, and if I do that, they'll get another warrant, they'll show up, they just go round. If I hold them, evaluation gets done. We get results. They're competent, but not competent. Forensic navigators, like recovery. And be with them, offer them services, regardless of the case goes. So if we get help, offer to them, their evaluations quicker, the long run, we pay less money. And the community serves, you know, what the person wants to do that. I have folk around for a year, commit 3 more crimes. And so we can order 3 more evaluations, if they ever get that, kind of hold them. We get that.
I think this is great information. I think this is great for the public too, to see how this whole system is operating. And the holes in the system, and obviously they're there, and so.
Well, the number one place,
And our staff does a
This
great
is
job.
ill in the state of-
Yeah.
This channel.
I appreciate all the hard work everybody does to navigate through all the challenges. All right.
Great. Jason, you wanna?
I will, so from a community development standpoint, currently that encompasses the people considering the building department, code enforcement, animal control, and planning, for lack of a better term. As you would expect, building permitting this time of year is relatively slow compared to what we see when spring and summer comes and you're in full swing, building season. What I did here was tried to have our staff pull out a December 2025 snapshot. I would argue December is probably our slowest time of year, just because the holidays between Christmas and New Year's, those 2-3 weeks are almost a ghost town as it relates to development permits. But I was actually surprised to see how many the building department actually had in December. So we actually have kind of an ongoing amount of permits, and this is a snapshot again, that were in the system in December of 59. That means they've been submitted, they've maybe been initially reviewed, our staff, whether it be Public Works, whether it be fire, my department, or building proper, is asking for additional information to clarify what the submittal is. Maybe some details on it weren't provided, engineering, mechanical plans, you name it. We have, again, snapshot, a total of 103 permits that are out there in the system that are issued but not completed. That means they're either performing the work or they've done the work, but they haven't called for inspections yet. We had 50 new permit applications, and I wasn't able to, in a timely fashion, to break that down. But I'm sure one of the things you guys would be interested in is how many new homes are coming in. Again, this time of year is very slow, especially for new homes, but we did have one new home come in, get issued in December up in the Hillcrest neighborhood. We had 43 building inspections, and that, that's high. I was surprised to see that many this tenure, because like I say, there's really not much going on in the building department, relatively speaking, in December. The first thing before I move on, I just wanna, look to the council. I guessed on what information you might want to see is, what would you want to see? What would be useful for you from a building standpoint? Now, we're talking building permits, and before you answer, the first thing I'd like to say, for a building permit, depending on what type it is, like let's take a single family residence, for example. That might register as one building permit, but it gets touched by a lot of people. It goes to Public Works, to several of their staff to look at water specific items, sewer specific items. They'll look at meter sizing, so they can adequately assess GFCs or facilities charges. They stormwater, they look at stormwater, total coverage, make sure pursuant to the ordinance. That's being addressed and paid for and accounted for appropriately. To back up a little bit, our permit tech, Jill Patnote, she takes in every single one of these permits, whether it's largely Public Works, whether it's a fire permit that comes in for sprinklers, she's touching every single one of these to make sure it gets distributed appropriately. Then when it comes to the department, each specific department looks at it. My department looks at, like a single family residence, for example, for compliance with zoning, design standards, lot coverage, setbacks, that sort of thing, on-site parking. Building will look at it for the structural issues, Public Works looks at it for all the utility issues. So it's, the point being, the number is one thing, but like Eric had brought up an interesting question, how much time are we spending on these? I don't have a good way to gauge time on these permits, but on the low end for like a residence, let's assume half an hour even. I mean, it's more than that for a building department, they spend on a permit. But you're looking at a couple hours of staff time cumulatively for a single family residence, right?
And it varies depending on the application.
Yeah.
We certainly have a lot of homeowners, hobbyists, flippers and things like that, and it can vary from, believe me, written on a napkin.
Yeah.
To, fully architecturally designed drawings, and if the lower quality and the less information we get, the longer it takes for us to review, seek additional information, provide feedback and have that conversation back.
Absolutely. And I guess a good point in that is we're expecting many residential building permits this summer with one of our larger subdivisions, Olympic Heights, 200 lots being full swing under construction for the infrastructure improvements. We're expecting what's referred to as a final plat submittal relatively soon, probably the next month or two, that would come before the council. The final plat is once they've completed all the improvements, our people have inspected them, made sure that they're bonded for all the water, sewer, storm drainage, street light in this case for that particular project. That all these systems are either in place or bonded. Then they start applying for building permits. Believe it or not, a larger project like that for like our building department and public works department, those take a little less time once you get through the first, I'll say roughly 5 to 10 building permits, because that's kind of the learning curve for the builder. Okay, what does the city need to see in these things? What type of information do they need? How is the inspector gonna handle the project? What do they wanna look at? If we make changes, how do we handle that? It's stop start for the first several, to be honest. You know, they'll take a little time to get through it. Once they get through that, they get those houses under construction and they figure out how things operate. Those other homes just blow right through. They don't spend half the time at that point. So it's kind of an economy of scale. So the one-offs where you're dealing with individual builders, those can take longer, believe it or not. We might take as long on a single house from an individual builder that we might take for, say, to review an issue 5 on a large subdivision, once they're up and rolling, because they just give us the complete package, everything we need. You know, even down to sizing for storm drainage, not to pick that out, that's anything special. But what a lot of people miss for public works is quantifying their roof area, identifying where they're gonna put what's called their dry wells, you know, that stormwater goes into as required by the state stormwater act. A lot of people miss that, and that's, you know, nothing against the builder, but these bigger builders, they have people that is their only job. They're gonna put together that permit package, and once they learn what's required, we get it all, and it's just, okay, you can sit down and do your permit review right in one city, then you shovel it back to Jill, and she packages it up, makes sure everything's fine with issues.
You kind of learn through the process, you know, like halfway through, oh, wait a minute, that's not gonna work, better
Yeah.
do this different.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it with Meadows Edge, that was a 30 some odd lot subdivision, they had some pretty hard stutter starts at the beginning. And, you know, the first 5 or 6 were a little, you know, wonky, so to speak, and by the time they got through those. That's why you saw them kind of start slow and then.
Sometimes it's a issue of what I call design by review as well. The application comes in, they're waiting for comments back from the city. Basically to finish their design, rather than reading our code, understanding design standards, you know, what utility standards might be. They're just gonna kind of submit some stock information they have available, wait for comments back. Edit their submittal, now they're off and running, so.
Probably cheaper that way.
Absolutely, and some of the, you know, kind of funnier side, we'll even see standards from other cities.
Yeah.
Like, let's say they just built in Tacoma or something, and they'll submit something, and they might have, some standard detail or something for a driveway approach from Tacoma, because we use that in Tacoma, let's just use that, knowing full well, we're not gonna approve that, you're gonna use the city standard, you know, so, but they'll just put it in there as a filler. And you know, that's just, it's kind of a game. That's.
I think it would be interesting for your building permitting consideration here for separation between residential and commercial.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I would add, you know, we've got our Tyler permitting system, but we've never, you know, once Mark came to us and, you know, said, hey, let's try to get some information to council. It's been a learning curve, learning how to get the very specific information out of it, but I think we can do that.
Like tenant improvements.
Yeah.
Just like they're gonna add a sink or something.
Yeah, if it's, well, that's like plumbing, that's basic plumbing permit. You know, windows, plumbing, roofing, mechanical permits are all kind of separate categories. There's fire permits as well.
An interesting thing I found is we honestly thought everything was connecting fine. And I had our permit tech run some reports for me. Hey, I don't know, nobody get this information, that information together. And she had these great reports that it spit out, but then as I started adding up a few of the things, like total permits did not equal the amount of specific permits the system was saying we had, right? Wait a minute, that makes no sense. We had to go back to the provider. We did all this last month, at the end of the month. We went back to the provider, kind of showed them the issue. And I don't know what it was. It was background stuff they had set up where two different things were talking to each other when you're writing the reports and double count and something. So it was,
Sorry, Judge, it's a Tyler program. I don't want.
Yeah. Well, it's fair enough. I believe you got it worked out, but it was rather frustrating. There was a period of time before we had prepared these numbers for you that I was kind of venting to Mark about either, and it just, so anyway, we just haven't been asked to give this kind of detail in our reports. We just get very general reports for our use. And so, yes, I think we can get that information, but I don't know why I added that. It was just kind of fun figuring out something which is in the system.
Yeah.
You start using it for things you don't normally use it for. And some of the problems. Code enforcement, one of the things I noticed is the judge said Jerry had collected 29 carts. Now, I don't know if this is a repeat or a pure coincidence, but code enforcement had 29 carts.
They work together.
I do know that.
So I think it's the same ones.
But specifically, two of them, I can count for two of them specifically, because I went out on a call with Will late on a Friday. It was just a last minute thing. We got a call about a pile of stuff and carts in a location in town. We didn't want to leave it through the weekend, so we both kind of just jumped in the public works truck, went out and dealt with it, and we pulled two carts then, so I know at least two of them weren't associated with interesting areas, so a number of difference. I don't know if it's a coincidence. I even wrote that, repeat or coincidence.
Yes, Jerry. So Jerry does work with law
Yes.
enforcement, code enforcement, and public works.
Yes, yes, and code, obviously, code enforcement works with them. I don't know why I said that. That was on the space lady you said.
Inmates, if they don't
So-
do the work.
Code enforcement, last month, again, a snapshot, had 63 cases reported. I didn't ask for specifics on what those were. But if you want that information, I can probably have that at the next report. At the end of the month, there were two still unresolved. He hadn't taken care of those yet. I don't know what those were yet, but he did refer 5, so I don't know if they went to police, I don't know if they went to Jerry's crew to deal with maybe on a road. He did look at 16 unhoused encampments. I tried to get a little bit of information out of him that I thought you guys would be specifically interested in. Those, I'm not sure if those were on rounds made with public works staff that are looking at known areas of encampment, or if they were with police. I mean, sometimes they do them together, sometimes he does them individually to then contact police or public works or Jerry's crew on cleanups. He had 9 illegal dumping reports. Of course, the carts I just spoke to, he had 8 derelict vehicles removed, and we ended up demolishing 2 of our fairly recently abated properties. 7th Street. The demolitions actually happened last month. Looks like a small number, but those processes, as you know, can take a while. If it's property owners, even if it's a derelict property, they have rights to. We have to go through a process of notifying them of the conditions, trying to work with them to abate the conditions. If they don't, we have to take them to hearing through our hearings examiner, get an abatement order. Then we issue the order to the owner. We still give them a chance to do it. Say, look, an unbiased third party said you gotta deal with this. And if they don't, then we have to coordinate with public works, because we do the same house. For staff time to abate the properties, which is why I think these orders were done in the spring and they weren't abated till December, these 2 properties. But that's because we had such a long, dry, workable summer. We made the decision, we didn't want to pull away public works staff from doing their work during the good weather. To demolish these properties. So once the weather broke, they hit those 2, and I'm expecting the 3rd on 7th Street to go down, hopefully this month. I don't have an exact date, but I know they're already cutting utilities, making sure they're capped off, and going through everything we have to go through, contacting other utilities, Cascade, PUD, just to make sure their stuff is dealt with and cut off, so we're not. Well, maybe, but demolition. Do you have any questions on that? Any other information you would want out of that? And I'll check on the carting. I don't know if that's Delaware County. Did we get nearly 60 carts? I don't know. I tell you what, the pile, they can accumulate in public works. We may have 60 carts.
So it doesn't say on code enforcement how many fines that we wrote. Is that under, just under police? We don't, not gonna show that here.
Civil infraction?
Yeah.
Civil infractions.
Okay.
And that I don't know. I think Mark could actually speak for that, but I don't think it's.
That's another.
But honestly, for us, we want to get voluntary compliance. I always emphasize this when people call me, you know, they're concerned, they've received a contact from code enforcement or whatever. But the goal here is compliance. It's not to get, you know, we don't want to have to go through the infraction process. We don't want to have to go through the abatement process. That takes a lot of our resources. Takes a lot of time and, you know, we'd rather just work with the property owner and rectify the situation.
There's a point though where the hammer's gotta come down, and we know that there are properties that have been way too long and the hammer needs to come down.
And it is, I would expect in the next year, you may receive, frankly, you might receive some complaints, because we're trying to get across to code enforcement, you know, we just have to. Get on the notice of violation, find the citation, if they correct it, we can always scrub it. But, you know, and I was guilty of it, I was code enforcement in this town as a building for 2 years, and you know, in retrospect, I was too friendly. I would work with people, it would take me months to get a single property cleaned up, we stood on staff time.
No, I agree, people should have the chance to clean it, but we know that there are some that have had that chance and they just.
And they have the ability to do that after the infraction's written
Right.
too, right? They can come
Yeah.
in front of the
That's,
court and demonstrate that they've complied.
you know, I came to the public arena after 13 years. After 13 years in retail. And I came up in the retail time where the customer is always right, you know, it's all about customer service and. The things like code enforcement, the customer is always right, you know, they're not complying with the code, you know, you're problem. That's just the way it is. So a few of the things we did this month, which I'm happy to announce, we're bringing in on another meeting. We have hired a building official. Finally, after a very long, 9 months, 10 months, with another building official. Hopefully I'll bring him to a future meeting, they're new sims, you can all meet him. That happened this month, and we now have our animal shelter fully staffed, so that is a. You know, an interim new director, I was rather surprised at how much time it took, out of the director's time, I thought human resources handle all that. But the director's actually involved quite a bit, which I guess makes sense, but I never thought of it. Which are things I didn't count in my schedule to deal with. We've got, even though we're working towards a contract with the Humane Society, as I've had fresh eyes on the animal shelter itself. I mean, there's just really some concerning issues down there that, in my opinion, we should probably deal with sooner than later, regardless of if the Humane Society deals with it. So I've been working with staff down there, I've been working with our facility staff and trying to figure out an equitable way we can, you know, deal with a few of these things that probably should have been dealt with years ago. But that's been taking some strategizing. I've been waiting for the new budget to come into effect, so we're, you know, we at least have a little money to spend on it, and I'm trying to work with facility staff to prioritize what we get the biggest bang for the buck out of. You know, so that our staff aren't hurting and uncomfortable or potentially, you know, under certain conditions, unsafe conditions. We have several long-term projects that you're aware of, the 2025 comprehensive plan. We did issue the draft environmental impact statement at the end of last month. That's been routed through the state website. It's been routed to our trustee agencies for review. I received a couple of comments already that the comment period goes through the end of the month, this month. I just received what I'm hoping is the final draft comprehensive plan. I haven't had a chance to crack it open yet, but I want to start that 60-day Department of Commerce review process we talked about, I believe it's into November. Sooner than later, because you know, it's already 2026. And we just need to get that process underway. So what I would expect, what does that mean? I would expect that comes to a hearing before you guys, hopefully the end of February-ish. I mean, the 60-day period won't be over yet, but we can hold hearings on it. We just can't adopt until the 60-day period is up. So I figured I would probably start that process, just so we're not back into a corner timing wise. Before the Department of Commerce comment period's up. As you're aware, we've had two large subdivisions approved recently. One I already spoke of, 199 lot subdivision above the college we refer to as Olympic Heights. That one's currently under construction. We recently had the 364 lot subdivision we refer to as Coffee Creek, that's on the southwest portion of town, approved, I want to say, a month or maybe 3 months ago. The hearing process was up and the appeal hearing was up. They have submitted for their civil improvement drawings, so we received those. Our public works staff are currently reviewing those. And then besides that, we have what, 1, 2, 3, four what I would consider sizable subdivisions currently under review in various stages of their reviews. Two have already gone out for what we call the notice of application. That's basically where we have a firm enough application. We don't have all the information yet, but a firm enough application where we're comfortable going out to the neighbors in the neighborhood with mailers to get input on a project while we're reviewing it. Typically, I like to get that out right away, but we've been tending to get these submittals that are like 3/4 of the way cooked, they don't have all the information. I don't want to, this is inappropriate to release information to, the neighborhood when I know for a fact the project design is going to change. So I don't take that for what it's worth, but we also have several smaller subdivisions that are in various stages. All of them are incomplete as far as their applications, but we do have them in-house anyway. They're not taking much work yet, but again, it speaks to what Mark was saying about the length of time a project can take to go through the process largely depends on the information we receive. And, the smaller flats in particular just really didn't have any information that we need. And it's spelled out in the code. It's not a mystery, but we need. We have code sections that literally say, you need to provide Yeah, and it just was me. So we notified the applicants and we're just waiting for them to resubmit. But I said more than I anticipated. I was just gonna go through the numbers. Everything else talks so much. I figured,
The only other thing I'd like to see here is under large projects, you mentioned Olympic Heights 199, but we know that they're talking to you about phase 2. That would be nice to see that on here.
that's
That's the Alpine.
That's the 306 lot subdivision.
Oh, I thought that was the other side of town.
No.
No, and that one, I should have been notice of application going out very, very soon. We actually have a meeting with them, hopefully next week to discuss some details that we've been asking for.
So where's the other project then up
Coffee
there?
Creek,
Yes,
so you're referring to, that's been approved through hearing.
okay,
We're reviewing civils right now, so that'll go to approval of their civil plans, and then they're off and running with those civil improvements.
so I mean, can we have like that information so we know, like,
Oh, yeah,
we can
sure.
chat and tally what we
Yeah.
think that's coming our way? 1,000 homes, 1,500 homes, 2,000 homes.
That, I just, what I did here was have the stuff that's still in review.
Okay.
So I can,
Yeah.
so like the large projects that are issued
I
and.
think we can kind of give almost a status, like if you'll see under Alpine, notice of application, the NOA soon. The next month, we can say notice of application, whatever, submitted or out or review time is, notice, what's it called, just comment period is.
I don't mean that in detail, I just meant like, how many homes do we think we're gonna have in the next few years, kind of on an ongoing basis, we know 199. Now we got 306, so there's 500 homes, over here, there's 334 homes, that kind of information, like on a,
Well, on that note, we do have a 42 unit apartment complex that was approved back in 03 through planned unit development, up there by Jones, Barnard and Sidney, that triangular piece. You pass on the west side when you're going up north of. They've gone fully through the building permit process and that is just sitting, waiting to be issued. So they're just at the stage for that one, A&Bs and.
What I would propose though is that we kind of have a running kind of status, so you can see, because some of these you might see, some of these subdivisions, you might see in the next 3 months, the status is the same.
Mhm.
Right, so they've either abandoned the project, they haven't told us, they're shopping it, they're, trying to find financing or something like that, so you can kind of follow where they are in the permitting process. And it,
But I can certainly add.
yeah,
There's
absolutely.
Larger projects, you're not, I suppose we could provide it, but are you asking for like? An ongoing list of.
Potential, yes. Like I get a question, okay, well, one of the houses we built, up there on the 199 ago. Well, I hear next year they're gonna go vertical. What about phase 2? Well, I hear they're talking to us about it. So I mean, it'd be nice if we had more information to give people when they ask.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm suggesting,
Yeah,
like,
so-
for example, Alpine.
Yeah.
Notice of application will go out soon, the next report you'll see, notice of application was submitted, the comment period ends on this date. That way you know when the comment period ends, then we're ready to go to hearing, we might not have the hearing set, but. Maybe the next report, the following month, you'll see the hearing set, and so you'll see kind of this running. This running kind of detail, timeline, what whole process we're in.
And I apologize, I live in a world of acronyms.
Mhm.
You're dealing in land use, and in reading this. I see that I should have defined what some of these are, like in the comprehensive plan, it says DEIS, What's a DEIS, I don't know what that is. I should spell out, it's a draft environmental impact statement for for the subdivisions, and maybe I'll put a little key on it in the future. NOA refers to the notice of application. That's the initial notice, kind of the public gets their first eyes on it, so to speak, as we're in review of the project. And the way the process goes for a larger subdivision is, we receive a submittal, we have to ensure it's complete. We don't send it out for notice of application until the submittal is complete. And some of these take longer than others, the criticism I get sometimes from people is, look at this was applied for 4 months ago. Why did I just get a mailer today? Because the application wasn't complete. We didn't have a complete design. We didn't have maybe the preliminary, environmental information, for wetlands and slopes and geotechnical. We didn't have preliminary, sewer design, traffic. And sometimes it comes in all in one plug, very rarely though. And similarly, if we receive what is on its surface a complete application, but the information is, for lack of a better term, poor. We look at it like, this isn't a reality. We might work with the applicant to amend it before we release it, because we don't want a situation where the public's looking at it going, this makes no sense. What is this? So it.
Well, we can do that, to kind of highlights of where it is in the status.
I don't want you to do any more work. I was just thinking
No, I understand.
more generic,
Yep. Absolutely, no problem.
Figure something.
Just let people know that, hey, yeah, there's gonna be 500 homes back there in 3 years.
But to finish up,
Possibly.
I hate to put a timeline on
Yeah.
it, though, you understand
Yeah.
what happens there, we put a timeline on it, then. The city's making some sort of commitment that we really we don't have much control over.
the perfect example is the Shelby Springs subdivision that happened, Spice Rack, as we call it, up by the high school. That was approved, I think, in 08. I think they even got their final plat in 09. We hardly saw a home built until about 2016.
And yeah, then they went like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
You was close your eyes,
So-
they're all there.
Just because it's approved and constructed, the market is a crazy thing. That doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna build. I'm sure the builder would love to. They want it to go smooth, build it, get there, whatever they anticipated getting on it, but it doesn't always happen.
One last question, with all this stuff, all this building going on, have we attracted any attention to Hall at all? Has he not come to us with any ideas since we've got all these houses coming? You think that he'd be interested and be more, we're moving, we're shaking. Sure like to, for him to develop that, 900 acres?
Right.
Thank you.
I don't know, we've introduced you to Assistant Chief for another month or so, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Searles, Central Mason Fire. Assistant Chief Searles would be assuming it's not jumping the gun here, right?
Go ahead.
The chief's role there at Central Mason Fire, so, as one of our partners here in public safety. Want to provide you the information, about. What, 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 about the services, the critical services that they're helping us out with here in the city of Shelton, so. Chief?
I'll bet that he wants to flip a coin next time. Who gets to go first, right?
Good evening. So what I have before you are some stats, kind of like the police department did. We did some stats comparing 2024 to 2025. And kind of go through it fairly quick, but first off, our total call volume in Central Mason, we decided to decrease in 25 and 24. And partly from that is in 2023 as a department, we took on doing what was called inter-facility transports. So doing transports out of Mason General Hospital to other hospitals across in Washington to take patients to a high level of care. We stopped doing that in 2024. And so therefore, that's why, that's about 1,000 calls a year that we were doing. So that's kind of why it decreased we saw in 25. As far as for calls in the city, also we saw a decrease in 25. Don't know why that was, other than just, folks not needing our services which is good. So that's definitely a bonus there. The next set of boxes kind of is a breakdown of some major incidents that we categorize. So fires, meaning house fires, vehicle fires, brush fires is what that entails. Obviously EMS calls is EMS calls, hazardous calls, those would be like power lines down, gas leaks, propane tanks that we may be venting off that we get called for, service calls, lift assist down trees, as such, good intent calls. Those could be some smoke alarms going off and they call us to help, we change batteries. Those also could be fire alarm activations that we go on. And then fault alarms, fault calls, those could be incidents that we are toned to and then we're canceled right away. So we actually never make it out the door. And so, or would put on a call that truly wasn't ours, dispatch may have, they got an updated address, found us at a different location. So that's kind of the breakdown of the calls, and these are all calls within the city. Next, going down to the fire marshal services, obviously, fire marshal, so permits review, that's how we permits the fire marshal that reviews for you guys. Permits / reoccurring inspections, these inspections being done on businesses and so forth throughout the year. Fire investigation, anytime that there's a fire, whether it is a house fire, whatever the case may be, it has to be investigated. So those number of investigations that incurred, and then the man hours that took for our investigators to investigate those fires. Moving down to public education, so community events. These are events we did in the city, whether it's Forest Festival, going out to the schools and showing off the trucks, and we booked the kids in elementary schools to be a part of the Body Shelton down on Railroad Avenue that takes place. Station tours, so we have quite a few that come through, usually preschools that come, that come in and they schedule with us, kind of on the fire station. Be able to look at the fire trucks and be able to talk with our folks. And then also CPR classes, so we're very involved going out and teaching CPR throughout the community. So these are CPR classes being held at the fire station. Also maybe a business saying, hey, we want our employees to be CPR certified. So we have a couple of folks who are instructors that go out and teach these classes throughout the year. So there's that, I guess, a couple updates on us as Mark mentioned. So our chief Jeff Snyder and our deputy chief Greg Yates are both retiring next month. So both been in the fire service well with 30+ years each of them. So a lot of knowledge that we're losing. But with that, so I will be coming up as the fire chief of the interim starting next month. And then we have another assistant chief who'll be coming up an acting role to replace our deputy chief who's leaving. So those kind of some changes happening within our organization. We also in the process, we are building a training facility. So currently, anytime we need to go do some training, we go outside Mason County, usually over to Olympia. We even up to Kitsap County to do a lot of hands-on training. We are currently in the process of building our own training facility. You may have seen it out Highway 3 at Krabbenhof Road. We have one of our outline stations out there that we're currently building a training center out there. So we'll be able to stay local, not have to travel all over to train our crews as well. So as far as the Central Mason, I guess a little about, so we have 72 line staff. There's currently four admin chiefs, we'll be going down to 3 next month, 3 office staff, and then 50 volunteers. Currently our fire district, including the city of Shelton, about 183 square miles. But on top of that, we also do the advanced life support, which is the paramedic service, about 3/4 of Mason County as well. And so we have pretty large area that we serve. With that, that's it. Let's see if any questions.
Do you think maybe reduced calls is maybe because of our DCR or first responder that we had in the city the last couple of years also? Now we got the West Mason deal going on. Is that really helping out maybe with fire calls? The West Mason?
North Mason.
North Mason, yeah. Sorry, with their program now, they're now doing more.
Possibly, I couldn't tell you, but that very well could be a possibility, sure.
DCR has been very valuable over the last couple of years.
And sometimes DCR is kind of secondary, it's a call for service for police or EMS or something. DCR may be called in secondary to that, or maybe contiguously, just because of the nature that it isn't always, they're not necessarily dispatched on their own. It's typically right in conjunction with
Correct.
one of your intelligence operations.
I just want to say, I know some of you get up at like 4:30, 5:30, you were still here talking to us, so thank you so much. I know it's a really long case for you guys, so thank you so much.
How's your staffing? Are you staffing up to FTEs or?
Yep, so our staffing, we currently are full on our staffing, so, yeah.
Yeah, I would add a comment. So as they all said triggers, okay, so, TCRs. Yeah, you should know, that Shelton's Court does have a sting order, the Sprague Jail, Mason County Jail, that anyone that's taking a designated crisis responder for civil commitments is not made release. Automatic release. Whereas if I have a bail then, and they're in jail contract. And they meet the criteria, you civilly committed mental health, they're automatically released to those people. The logic is the vast majority of people in the country, instead of being in a treatment center, street jail, this number location for them. Okay. We have a lot of people that cycle through, but found incompetent over and over and over again. We found incompetent means not an ability to assist their attorneys in defense, or they are unable to comprehend, a shorthand basically, comprehend the charges against them, right? If that happens, this is misdemeanors, not felonies. If that happens, the charges are dismissed, right? They're gone. So in this community, there's not a street people. And a lot of women found incompetent over and over and over again. There's some more, and they keep cycling through.
That would be good information to have.
So a designated crisis responder, the criteria is different. And versus, and also mental health attorney, so, this grave disability. The public has a misconception, and most people are detained based on hard to suffer for others, that's also part of the statute. It's a civil commitment statute. And, a grave disability, inability to take care of every daily needs of the criminal mental illness, it's usually schizophrenia. And from my perspective, suspended judge last 7 years, going on 8, that population were better served and not getting them back, right? That's the goal, right? Is to have them go to a mental health center for civil commitment. It starts with 120-hour hold. And then an errant fever doctor can assign them to stay longer, which is 14 days after that. So they might go down to Lacey, there's a facility, like a VHR over here. But it's the only chance we have of removing some of them from the jail criminal justice system, get them into the civil mental health system, And maybe give them some medications, some stability. And not have Walmart. Steam the beer, right? For the 15th night. But a family comment for 15. It's all of time, all of this time. It's just, it's a better shot than getting things better. For everybody, yeah, 20%. But by fall, straight away, the other 8% says you out, start using drugs again. Don't let that in again. But it's a solution. That criminal justice system can't do, civil mental system. Which helps reduce sin if they're signing on that, right? Just not even that orders to do it. Okay,
But there's still a bed problem, correct?
yes. There is. And it does, and a lot of CRs. They hold, they're by law, yeah, by number of processes available there. There's a hole in the system. And I know it's been recorded. Ladies and gentlemen. They have to be medically cleared before you can go to a facility. And if you were in, say, Kiss County, right, a public center, you go to St. Michael's, you get cleared, somebody's there, either a correction officer or security guard at the hospital, or a police officer, 100% of that in consent. And you'll get detained. Here in this county, you'll be some county jail. You want the officer to babysit forever, they can't. Their security is actually supposed to be watching that, they run a little. Mason Health. Yes. But that's the loophole. And so their issue, at least they get for good. But bottom line is, we have a lot of people with some mental illness, time to spend over here with them. And so it's just one more attempt to cycle some, to simple commitment system. We will actually get help from this, as opposed to this staying out here. So it's helpful. Right? Or out in the rain. It's exposure and drugs. And the mental TCR triggered memory, which also triggered Jerry's report for December. 65 plus needles. She takes care of those, not the criminal defendants speaking worker. Do not let them touch those. She takes care of those, supposed to have been correctly. That's a massive job. Last couple months. She was getting down to like a dozen, 5,
That's
6.
That's interesting because
Now it's probably just 65 is over.
Right, yeah.
Yes, you're better than I do, but I have a lot more those.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all summer long I picked up garbage and I didn't find any needles at all this summer. And previous years I picked up hundreds. And I thought, hey, maybe something's changing, but now you're saying all of a sudden overnight they're back.
It's a huge jump.
Yeah.
So I started to that earlier, but it's not that should.
What are best locations?
Hello, yes.
Now, can I ask to elaborate on this a little bit with the camping ordinance? I see we have 2 arrests. Are people who are being arrested for that receiving any resources for housing, behavioral health, treatment programs, or anything like that? Or is it just?
No.
No, okay.
I mean,
I think that's important.
Honest answer. They would qualify for a treatment court,
Mhm.
but they have wanted,
I see.
right? So.
Agreed, right, all of the rules.
Right, we got all the roles, and some of them want to do that too. We have a great treatment court,
Mhm.
but you have to want to be in it. You can't make somebody get better, if they don't want to get better. There has to be a small part of them that wants to get better. It's a very hard program. And stay clean. Some use store evaluation, and take mental health medication. Can't drink, can't use drugs, they don't take fight. They're like, no, I like my drugs. So we get to jail for a few days, so you get 3 meals a day in a place to sleep. So. There are few that don't. So, it's all there. But we do have somebody currently in the Gotham housing.
Okay.
So I'm in the streets of downtown Shelton. Number of overdoses, her charges. She's now 40s, 50s, and she told us that she didn't want to date that anymore. But she relapsed twice, because every time she was in downtown, show
Right,
food,
right.
and showed up, after I was watching this, but off it up. And I banned her downtown shopping.
Mhm.
And she's in the treatment court, so I informed her, she signed over some control of her life, right? And then she wrote in sober housing. I got these from different rate in this program. And so she's risen from here, she's born here, she's currently in Burlington. She has a passing cassette transit, that's fine. Okay. And she's under care of mental health services.
Okay.
Please, permanent. Yeah, she is. Great. Can't register,
Great.
not international.
Okay.
She can't.
Thank you very much for that information. I appreciate it.
So,
Yeah, yes.
So, I guess we're good with those for, all right. So Mark,
information here, first of all.
yeah,
Thank you.
like I said, thanks for staying late.
Mhm.
Mark will be
Jen,
providing,
you can. Hang out.
hang out or
Hang
not.
out, stay.
Yeah. I know it's riveting, right? Mark's gonna provide information on strategic planning.
Yeah.
Yay.
Absolutely.
I know, I'm doing better.
No offense, Dave. Let's see what you do, the first one and then.
Well, somebody's take lead.
Somebody has said 7:30 meeting tomorrow, huh?
Yes, I
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Anybody are copy this?
Please.
Since
Thank
the
you.
proposal in the packet, just gotta go along, perfect. Doesn't have a computer tonight. Trees that have.
Thank you for keeping along.
So
Agreed.
as you know, we added strategic planning, council strategic planning effort to the 2026 budget and work plan. We had a strategic planning document, if you will, that we developed in 2022. I know maybe, I think. Well, three of you were involved in that process. And it's, you know, they need to be renewed, refreshed and rethought, particularly when we've got a change in council, so. Conducted a number of interviews with consultants and selected strategic. Creative strategy solutions within Alden, chief. Thank you. Yeah. Training and echo.
My head don't turn like.
Really impressed with Una's, work with other communities, including Leavenworth and Bothell and MRSC itself. So I think we'll really enjoy, her efforts, to lead us down this path of strategic planning. Strategic planning effort, that's our roadmap, right? We talk about roadmaps with, our comprehensive plan, our parks plan, and things like that. This is the roadmap, that'll align the council, focus our efforts, focus our resources. It sets the course for staff also moving forward. The intent with this is with our strategic goals and KPIs and measurements associated with that. Everything that we will bring to council will be associated with the strategic plan. So you will see those in our briefing packets, you'll see this in our budget requests. They will have a strategic goal and strategic effort attached to them, so we can show to the council, we can show the public that we are striving to that to meet those goals and objectives. It really helps, you know, that vision, that broader vision with the council's responsibility and sets staff, we can start meeting that vision. And if it's not collective, if it's not seven, it's not the body, we can go in 7 different directions really quickly, believe me. There's a lot going on around here and it can get kind of rough, shot and scattered, so getting that direction helps us move in that direction. Again, unites our efforts. We work collaborative to meet those. And then there's a community engagement element there too. We certainly want to communicate that with our community. Engage them on what the council's, you know, strategic goals may be. Some feedback before the final effort is put together. We are kicking off. Well, we kind of kicked off, but this Thursday, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, will be joining me with Una to talk about this a little more. We've all committed to the February 21st, retreat, Saturday retreat, most of the day. We'll have leadership there as well to help inform and guide on services that are being provided. And then we need to talk about the next opportunity. So, in the packet, again, I won't go through it specifically. I will go down to there's Una's overview. Again, some of the strategic planning efforts that work with cities of Linwood, North Bend, King County Auditor's Office, Bothell, Snoqualmie, a couple of other cities. This is kind of the framework, at least to start with. So current landscape mapping, go down away from that. So essentially it's an inventory of where we're at now, right? Whatever relevant data that is presented to you, so you can be more informed. Take both internal and external, I guess. Take stock of that current situation, and then a practical vision. This is, so much as I don't like it really, the mission, vision, values portion of strategic planning, but I guarantee you will get us to do that in a way that we don't spend that much time on it and we get a lot of value. It's demonstrated that in my discussions with her. One thing I like is the roadblocks diagnostic. So when we come up with these, this practical vision and some of the mapping is identifying some of the roadblocks that are in front of us. So what we do is we can identify those roadblocks and get them out of the way early and address those rather than waiting and developing the strategic plan and then not identifying the roadblocks in place beforehand, right? Because then we're essentially, we could be stalled, we could be wasting energy, we're not moving in the same direction. After that, the strategic directions, right? Those roadblocks are addressed. Now, okay, let's see how we're going to address our strategically where we're going to go, how we're going to get clarity around those roadblocks, dismantle some of those challenges, and then the tactical takeoff is what Una calls it. That's the core strategic plan. We're developing that. That's really the beat of it as well. And then progress goals, that's kind of the KPIs or the measurements. How are we going to implement this and how are we going to report back to the council, to the community, how we are meeting these strategic goals and in performance measures? What are those performance measures going forward? How are we addressing those? Are they successful? Do we need to redirect potentially? Do we need to take a different look at it? Are we really being successful? And these are kind of maintaining that path. So again, council day one, again, I just talked about landscape mapping. So the deliverables, participants will have a shared baseline of internal and external information for the articulated engagement for the planning process. And then again, on day one, this is the 21st, the practical vision workshop, deliverables, practical, robust framework that provides clarity around 7 overarching goals, building a foundation for shared accountability. That's the better part of a full day, and then coming back on day 2, a couple of weeks later, roadblocks, diagnostic workshop, like I said, strategic and the strategic directions. Later that day, community input. I think that's still up for some discussion with council. We talked about a community forum, charrette, something like that to demonstrate the work that's been put into place, get some more feedback from our community, and then further, I guess, develop that into the plan itself. So I think we have a little bit of time to work on that to get more feedback on what that looks like with it in place. But my expectation is we're probably getting closer to April before that happens. So the February 21st retreat. I would propose 2 dates in March, either the 14th or the 28th, for the second retreat. you will, we get through that, and then we're probably in April with the public forum, and then we can basically wrap this up in a vote, if you will, and, we've got to have a strategic planning document that we work with and, present to the community, and staff can work diligently to meet those goals. So if you have any feedback on, those March dates, happy to take it now, regarding the facilitation. I will say that Udo will be reaching out. I haven't sent her your contact information yet, but I will be sending that out in the next day or two. In the next couple of weeks, we'll reach out individually for a little bit of interview, do some baseline questions, get some feedback from you, describe the process more, answering specific questions in a one-on-one environment. So you can develop a rapport with her, understand her process, her work plan, and then that'll help lead into the retreat on the 21st. So one thing I appreciate too, should really focus on that initial discussion with each council member individually, to be able to separate that from maybe the group a little bit, right? It's become more performance before we get started.
All right.
I will let you know. Sorry, I will let you know when that's set. I will do next couple of days.
All right. Does the council have any new items for discussion?
How did the Navy conversation
What
go?
I was gonna ask. Somebody-
It's on my list. I don't know. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Oh, that was good news heard.
I don't think there's any good news.
Oh, okay. That was all great.
You know, they had 10 or so individuals from law enforcement to their right of way and property managers, PR person, a surveyor. Essentially I asked essentially 3 questions. If they would enforce on their own properties, encampments, clean up those encampments, if they would allow access on their properties to help us enforce. Essentially, the first 2 questions were answered with a no. They either say it's local jurisdiction's responsibility, or it's not our property. It could be easement, or they just only manage the tracks themselves and essentially don't put any effort into enforcing those things. I did ask if they would grant access to their property, to the city of Shelton for any enforcement activity or cleanup activity. They're checking with their legal counsel and their powers to be to see if that would be the case. They are also checking on whether the tracks themselves to be accessed over a long period of time for cleanup activity. So if you get equipment up there or something like that, where they would ensure there's no training activity. They need to work with Puget Sound and Pacific Railway. They utilize the tracks as well to make sure that's okay. As well as surveyors, that they would give me essentially a title report of underlying property ownerships. And see if Puget Sound and Pacific owns some of the property potentially, their current or proprietary easements that are in place. That will better inform us who may be the owners if we need to reach out to the SVP and see if they're a player in this at all. There's still a couple questions legally. Even if they grant access, do we have the authority to trespass people? That's typically a sheriff's office responsibility. You know, the chief's staff is working with the sheriff's office as we speak to do some of that enforcement. I've wanted to wait until we had some activity here with Navy and see if, so we could progressively work through the enforcement and clean up at the same time. But they committed to getting back in about 2 weeks with the underlying property issues and whether PSAP, Puget Sound and Pacific Railway, are open and interested in providing access on the tracks for equipment.
And today I did confirm with the sheriff's department, they have written authorization from the Navy to enter and enforce. So that doesn't solve all our problems, but they're willing to.
And that remains in effect.
That is correct,
Okay.
yes. So they are willing to help us as well. Because we have, like Luke says, we have lots of properties up there, whether it be the Navy private property, city property. So we don't want to go up and trespass somebody and then they move 20 feet onto a property that we can't enforce. This needs to be a, one and all thing and have all our bases covered.
Anyone else? Comment? All right, I guess we're gonna call it. The study session is adjourned at 7:42. My record for having a quick meeting has been, oh, wait. I guess those days are over.
Deal. These, the reports will be shorter,
Right.
as we move forward. I just wanted to make sure you got kind of the breadth, but